very full-bodied.
All right, we're back. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a slightly different guest. We're here at the beautiful Q Cigar Lounge, and we've got some questions that you want to know from an up-and-coming entrepreneur. A lot of you have said, it's very motivational, it's inspiring to see people who have already succeeded, who are already retired, already doing well, already living a luxury lifestyle, doing the type of charities that you like to see. But how do you bridge that gap between a 9-to-5 or working paycheck to paycheck and get to your next step? So we found someone who very, very well at a very young age is bridging the gap. I'm not going to get too much into detail yet because we're going to answer the questions that you posed for our young entrepreneur. But to start with, I'll get him to introduce himself.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. My name is Connor Hawkinson. I'm a 24-year-old here in Edmonton, working, as Chris said, a 9-to-5, as well as a very small side business. And yeah, I've been living here my whole life, and I'm just really trying to break into that entrepreneurial space, and I was super grateful to have met Chris relatively recently. And yeah, that's pretty much everything about me.
I think that's a little more humble than they're used to hearing on this channel, but you know what, let's just get into the questions.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be great to do like an intro and do a whole big explanation, but I think answering the questions will do just as much for the audience as going into a bunch of things that you may not be interested in at this point. So,
absolutely.
We will get interrupted a little bit here, just because we've got some food coming from the great people here at Q Cigar Lounge. So, look at that. So here.
Oh, it's amazing.
Look at that. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Oh, it's good.
All right. Looks pretty good. So these were just sent into us, just random order. How much weight do you place on starting a family? Wow, you guys loaded these up really heavy.
Wow.
Yeah, so the question that went out was, we have a 24-year-old guest, and they've recently became fairly debt-free, lowered their cost of living, started making the right moves early in life. And we said, okay, you can ask these people a question, this person a question. And that's a heavyweight question right there. So wait, did we talk about how old you were?
I mentioned in the intro, yeah,
Okay,
I'm 24.
good, so 24. So
Yeah.
I'll re-ask that question. How much weight do you place on starting a family?
That's a really good question. I've actually thought about that probably every year of my life since I was like 12. And as of lately, I've just had a very hard time coming up with a solid answer. It is very important to me. Personally, I do want to have kids. I'd like to continue a legacy. Similar to obviously how my family had gotten me to this point. But it is very challenging to find the right person and know that they are in it for the same reasons you are, and obviously being able to balance spending the right amount of quality time with that person, as well as developing and growing your skills and your businesses and all of that, and obviously listening to the right people and spending time with the right people as well as your family is very challenging. So I wish I had a better answer as to like how I could connect the pieces perfectly, but I really don't know, and I'm just trying to make the best decisions I can based on what I know at the current time. So
Well, let me elaborate on that.
yeah,
This wasn't asked, but for me personally, because like children really isn't it's not in my future. Being 24, you say you think about it a lot. what weight do you put on a time? Let's change it and put, say, a timeline. Being 24, obviously there's a decade and a half between you and I. Do you have a 5-10 year plan to hopefully have a family started? Or how do you factor in the weight of the career and ascension before you, like, do you have, I guess what I'm asking is, do you have a goal to be at, a security level, a financial security level to be at? Because just to say 5 years, what does that mean?
Absolutely.
Where are you in 5 years that says, okay, I'm willing to pull the trigger, so to speak, no pun intended?
I'm not I'm not necessarily afraid of when I'm not concerned about missing a certain time frame or whatnot, but I would like to have kids before I'm probably 35, so another 10, 11 years from now. I personally don't mind waiting till I'm that old, because when my parents had me, they were in their mid-30s, and I know that it didn't really cause any sort of negative effects to me growing up, and I want to give myself enough time to be in a smart position. Now, when do I know when I'll be in a smart position? I don't. I know there's a certain number I want to see in my account, because I obviously want to make sure that when I'm bringing people into this world, I can give them the right quality of life.
I have to interject. He doesn't mean a savings account.
Yeah.
He's talking about his life account portfolio.
Absolutely.
Because we all know money in a bank account is going backwards. So I just have to put that in there so you don't actually think he's saving money.
No.
He already knows better than that.
Absolutely. But your net worth and your assets and whatnot is at a point where it does make sense to bring someone else into this world, because the worst thing I see just in general with society is it seems like people that don't make enough money and don't really have their stuff figured out tend to have the most amount of kids, and they're always struggling, having a really hard time obviously meeting ends meet and raising kids and feeding them right. And I just want to make sure that my kids have the best possible life growing up. They're taught all the right lessons, and they don't have to worry about a lot of basic necessities. So I want to make sure I'm very solid for that. But yeah, about 10 years, I would say, roughly, give or take, is my kind of where I'll know for sure if I'm going to have kids, and that's the kind of the point.
I'll be completely honest. When in my circles, you're pretty much nailing what the experience has shown us, that your 20s are your most quintessential time frame to develop the rest of your life. So if you're focused on building a family and building your family's financial security, you can't do two things at 100%. You can do them each at a perfect 50% or 75-25, but that means something's probably suffering. So I like the way you answered that. That's good. 35, if you're in your early 20s or late 20s, is a good thought point, especially for a male. We're lucky we get a little more time biologically. No, I like that. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
No, we're cute. Oh wow. Okay.
Another tough one.
Yeah. Well, it goes right into. So, what is your 5-year plan? I know a lot of people. Okay, and understand. The questions are going to come in from a 5-figure mindset. So these are things that sound profound from a 5-figure mindset. Yes, people out of that mindset have certain plan and time frames. They don't do it in really like that. But let's just say that we'll call it a 5. Before you're 30, what is your plan?
Yeah, I mean, really, for me, at the end of the day, I've done a lot of personal development and read a lot of books and done a lot of courses online to better myself as a person and better my skills in the workplace. So for me, I work in sales professionally, and I've been in sales since I was 19. And I'm always reading and bringing in literature and experts in that industry to learn as much as I can about it. So I'm always investing in myself in that. But I'm also working on scaling my business, which is a very small independent company that essentially I just run myself out of my truck, basically, without getting too far into detail. But that business has the potential to grow, but not in exactly what that business is that it sells. And if you want me to elaborate on that, I can explain what the business I run is, but I don't know if that's going to be too far off track.
Let's wait further on, just in case a little bit gets answered in the question.
Sure.
And then I'm gonna have questions at the end, so maybe we'll elaborate at that point. So,
yeah, like the 5-year plan. I mean, really, I'm just. If you guys saw me 4 years ago, like, I'm not even the same person. So I know that in 5 years, I'm going to be at least this far ahead, if not even farther, because I believe that growth is exponential.
Yeah. Because one piece of knowledge can deflect your life in the right direction.
Yeah.
So if you were going this way and a knowledge rock hit you here and it put you back just on this path, this isn't even the same sport. This is going to be way better for your life. So even if it's a
very small adjustment.
Yeah, what seems like a small adjustment, it changes the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I think people will understand that as they make the right moves.
Absolutely.
So let's leave that one there, because that's difficult. Because just in the 3.5 months that we've known each other, I've seen a completely different shift just based on knowledge. Forget money, just the knowledge that he's acquired. Now he's turned it into a different way of doing life. So let's leave that one. What was the trigger to set your life on a better path? I'm hoping this didn't mean spiritually.
No.
This is usually a financial development, so your thoughts.
Honestly, pain.
Pain.
I find that
pain is the biggest teacher.
I'll be straight up. Like, most people are either motivated by pain or pleasure. I've come to learn, I used to think I was motivated by pleasure. I'm certainly more motivated by pain. So for me, at the end of the day, I got to a point where I was just suffering financially. I had a large amount of my income being sucked away by an asset that I had bought because I used emotions to essentially obviously want to purchase something, and then I used fact to justify those emotions, and I made a purchase of something that I really didn't need, that I had payments on. Essentially, it was a very high-end car. And
did you hear that? What have we told you is the absolute worst thing you can do in your 20s? Buy the biggest depreciating asset available on the market, which is an automobile.
Absolutely. And I got extremely lucky because I worked in that industry, and I bought that car at a wholesale price. I ended up selling it for retail a year later, which was actually more than I paid for it. But I acknowledge that I got incredibly lucky, and that if I didn't purchase it at the price I did, it wouldn't have made sense at all. At least, even though I was losing money to interest and whatnot, I still came out in a solid position where I'm not scrambling. But yeah, by far, and I'm a huge car guy. That's actually how I ended up meeting Chris, is just through the car community and the car scene. And I've come to realize, and as hard as it is to admit, that I just don't need a car like that right now, because I'd rather settle for not having a decent car right now.
His car was more expensive than the one I was driving when we met.
That's right, yeah. But I know in 5 or 10 years, I can have a bunch of really nice cars that are way nicer than anything I would ever be able to own with my normal income, if I can just bite my tongue essentially and hold out for now. But yeah, to answer that question, 100% the pain, 100% realizing that I can be doing way better things with it, and the money that was coming in, and basically just not dumping it, and just knowing how to save it better.
So I'm going to build off that question just because it's fresh. The ego has to be put aside to answer this one.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you get that car?
I guess a few reasons. Initially, so I'll tell you guys what the car was. It was an RS7, so an Audi, big 4-door sedan with a V8, and I got a really good price on it. What I really wanted was an RS3, and if you're a big Audi guy, those have the 5 cylinders, and they sound really, really special. That's Audi's heritage, and I could get into it. But this RS7 was cheaper than an RS3 and had lower mileage, and that's the reason I got it, because I really like speed. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. Like, I've got my pilot's license too. I love everything to do with speed and power and noise and all that. At the end of the day, I mean, the car was absolutely badass. I loved driving it. It was super cool. And I guess it generated some level of attention, but it was totally the wrong kind of attention, because everybody that saw me driving it, even though I paid for it myself, I put my down payment on it, it was my credit on the line, everything. Everybody just assumes it's my parents.
Yeah.
Like, I can't win.
Yeah.
And then...
you can't win a game that you shouldn't have been playing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, who cares? You know, if you go hang out with the younger people, they think it's your dad's. if you go hang out with the older people, they think you're an idiot because you're being so financially irresponsible. And then, you know, essentially all you're left with is this high horsepower vehicle that everybody seems to almost judge you for in the ways that you didn't expect to own it. So regardless, I bought it for the speed and I enjoyed it for that, but I don't need it. You don't need it, nobody needs it. Drive what makes sense for you. I mean, I literally just have my truck now, and it's super ugly. It's not pretty, it's not turning heads, but it makes me money every month. Like, I literally don't pay for anything because of the work that truck gets me. All my expenses are essentially covered by that vehicle. So my entire salary can go into other things versus covering cost of living and everything.
Let's be completely honest. You wanted to be seen in the car, because there's a car scene here where you're judged by your vehicle, and we've all fallen into it. So I'm gonna eat this. Give me a second. Looking wealthy typically keeps people from ever being wealthy.
Yeah.
Sorry, trying to look wealthy.
It's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I try and.
I'm not ragging on them. We've all done it. I just like to point it out because it's so. We're hoping to really impress on people what you can do. It's so easy to get ahead. You don't have to do anything special. It's what you don't do, like taking on unnecessary debt.
Yeah.
The price of his vehicle, whether it was a great price or not, I'm sure we could both agree that the value of it invested at that time.
Oh yeah,
his eyes lit up. He knows exactly. Doesn't
100%.
matter what the car is. If the car is not doubling in price every 4 to 5 years, an investment would have been a better choice.
Yeah.
So, because I think you mentioned your cost of living went down 30%.
It did.
I don't know if this question will be easy to answer,
Okay.
but tips on how you lowered your cost of living by 30%.
For sure. So yeah.
Maybe go by how you came to that 30%.
Yeah.
It makes sense to someone who hears it, but explain the 30%, where it came from, and how much you had to do to get there.
For sure. So I mean, I'm pretty frugal now. Like me a few years ago, like I said, 4 years ago me was entirely different. 2 years ago me was entirely different. 2 and a year ago when I bought the car, I was very much a different person. And I used to eat out. I used to have members.
But I'm sure she was happy about that.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
Like that one up.
That was a good one. Yeah, no, I used to eat food out at establishments like this a lot. I used to have a lot of memberships. I used to subscribe to a lot of online services that, well, some of them I still use and most of them I didn't. I just cut. So what I ended up doing was, just before I sold the car and I realized I had to figure out everything, I went and took an Excel and essentially figured out every single thing that gets automatically taken out of my account every month, regardless if I'm breathing or not, and got rid of everything that isn't getting me further ahead. So like Netflix, I don't like Amazon, never had Amazon Prime, but if you have that, you really don't need it. You can happily thrive with everything that you have here. Streaming services I don't use other than YouTube Premium is literally the only one I have because it has music on it. So I cut all that crap and then just really focused on cutting other expenses. So figuring out exactly what I'm going to be paying for rent, figuring out where I need to be for that, figuring out where I need to be for vehicle ownership, so figuring out the expenses of the year on my truck, and really taking the time to do the math and realize like, hey, I could go for a drive because I like driving a lot, even in my truck. I can go for a drive on a Friday night and just have fun and go to a 7-Eleven and get a drink, maybe go out to a shisha bar or something, or I could fire up my PC and watch a few YouTube videos, podcasts, courses, start planning my life, write goals down, even journal. That's more productive than going to do all those things. Write things that worked this week, didn't work this week. So just trying to essentially find a better use of your time while also mitigating all the money that's leaving your pocket, whether you're breathing or not. And the car was a huge part of that. I mean, my payment on that was horrible. My insurance was absolutely disgusting. I'm 24 years old, driving a 700 horsepower Audi.
Yeah.
My insurance was, I'll tell you, my first year I paid up annually was $7,500. I mean, that was moronic.
$620 a month for those of you who don't do quick math.
Yeah, that was horrible. absolutely horrible. So,
Wow.
yeah, and then
You think your car payment's bad?
yeah, and then a car payment, right in that same ballpark again. So you do the math, essentially $1,500 a month going out just to own the damn thing. Plus it runs on 94, so that's what, $2 a liter?
Right now it is,
At least.
yep.
Yeah, $2 a liter. That's the thing. It's all. What are your expenses? What are your real expenses? Calculate everything, not just the car payment. Everything.
So that's a mortgage payment if you wanted to acquire an asset, or if you wanted to invest it. Even with the market going down, let's just say on average the markets are down 30%. Even if they go down more, if you bought $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year on a market that's 30% down, the moment it corrects itself, he makes 30% on just the rebound in the market instead of having a depreciating car. So you can see how it adds up. Each little payment might not mean something, but when you add them all up,
It hurts.
then you understand why there's no money left at the end of the month to invest, when that should be the only thing that you're interested in.
Yeah.